Well, hello everyone. I have been breathlessly awaiting my waterculture phal to bloom out, and look, she is so beautiful. The blooms on this plant are so large. When I first bought this plant, it looked more like a miniature, and it's starting to grow into a regular size phal. So I thought I'd give you some information on my waterculture Phalaenopsis orchid today. Keeping in mind that I only have one Phalaenopsis in waterculture right now. She is doing really, really well, so I am not disturbing her. So I just wanted you to see the root system and answer some questions that I've had on my channel recently about waterculture. Okay, here's the root system on this beautiful Phalaenopsis orchid. Just absolutely gorgeous. When you're growing in waterculture, especially your Phalaenopsis orchids, one thing you really need to keep in mind is you can have a really good root system in water, but you also have to look at the foliage. If your foliage looks nice and pretty and healthy and green like this one does, then you're good to go. If you've got a lot of roots and no leaves, then that plant is declining. No matter what the roots look like, it's just not going to have enough leaves to photosynthesize for the plant to bloom. So that's one thing I'm asked so often. I have lots of roots on this plant, but it's down to 2 leaves. That's when you know you need to convert it over to either New Zealand sphagnum moss or bark, whichever media you feel comfortable growing in. Another question I'm asked really often is, can you place a rootless Phalaenopsis in waterculture? I tried that a few times and it just didn't work for me. The way that I've had more success with a rootless Phalaenopsis is to grow it in New Zealand sphagnum moss and just keep that moss damp, not wet. However, several of my friends have done that before. They have placed rootless phals in waterculture for a specific period of time. In other words, they put it in waterculture for just a few weeks until they got some root growth going, and then they converted it over to media. So I believe that waterculture is a good temporary growing method, but for the long term, it is really, really challenging. Another question I'm asked really often is, do you have to fertilize Phalaenopsis orchids in waterculture? The answer for me is definitely yes. Mine stays in a fertilizer solution. I will place a link below in the description box for my latest fertilizing recipe that I use for this Phalaenopsis orchid in waterculture for you. But when I did not fertilize in waterculture, the plant declined. It absolutely has to have fertilizer. And I actually use more fertilizer with my waterculture Phalaenopsis than I do my others because it doesn't have any media to retain any nutrients. So it only gets what you give it. Another question I'm asked is, how can you tell when your waterculture Phalaenopsis is doing really well in waterculture? Let me show you. The leaves are going to tell the story. Okay, this is one of the very first leaves that this phal grew. This one was on the plant when I bought it 3 years ago. Okay, see how this leaf is larger than this leaf. Okay, so this was good growth here. This one is about the same size. It's slightly smaller. It's okay. But look at this leaf. This leaf is larger than all the rest of them. So do you see how the top leaves are pretty, shiny, healthy, and they're longer, they're thicker, they're just better looking than the ones the previous years. This is how you know. When you get these big, huge, shiny leaves, then you know that Phalaenopsis is doing well in waterculture. Then also look at the roots. Are the roots beautiful? Are you having just fuzzy roots all the time that you're having to trim off of the plant? If you are, then you really need to put that orchid back in media. But do you see how these roots are happy, they're healthy, and they don't rot anymore? So this is what a healthy root system looks like. As you see, the reason why the water looks greenish brown is because it's sitting in fertilizer and in seaweed extract. And when it's in water, it's always in fertilizer and seaweed extract. Then next you're going to look at the blooms. Do you have as many blooms as you did last year? This time last year, this phal had 5 blooms. This year, it has 5 huge blooms. These are about as big as my fist. So this is a good bloom cycle for this orchid. But if you had 10 blooms last year and now you only get 2 or 3 or 4 blooms, then you need to be thinking about converting that back over to media so you'll get a better bloom cycle. And I thought I'd end this video with a beautiful view of this plant. And you all just have a great day. Be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And we'll talk to you all next time.